So when my patient tells me, like, thank you, doc, and it's because of you that I'm feeling better, even sometimes it may not be permanent because I know that this patient, because of the terminal diagnosis, may not continue to feel better. But if he, so for even for just few seconds or a few minutes, a few hours, a few days, he's going to feel better because of me. That's what really keeps me going.
Happiness. What is happiness to you?
So satisfaction and fulfillment from your job. It is absolutely not the financial gains. So a lot of people think that physicians, they just made it because they are now earning hundreds of thousands of dollars annually. Believe me, this is not what brings you happiness. Maybe initially, but then later on down the road, you realize like this is just a part of it, but absolutely not everything. And what really brings you fulfillment and happiness is to actually help out the patients and their family members and try to make a difference to somehow fix the broken healthcare system that we have. My web series name is Healthcare Not Fair, and this is what I launched. So I'm the creator, the producer, and the director. I definitely got some help from some professionals to launch it. And it started as an experiment initially, and then later on I thought, like, okay, this is the way that I can communicate with more people and reach out a much bigger audience rather than writing a book or writing articles. So I ended up developing this comical, satirical, and at the same time educational web series called Healthcare Not Fair. And I am myself playing the protagonist in the web series as Dr. I Am Sorry. So basically, the guy is a physician, and he is really apologetic to his patients for what the medicine has turned into. So it was supposed to be a profession, but now, unfortunately, it has turned into a business that is really affecting the patients and the physicians and the families. So I'm just trying to bring out both the positives and the negatives, so you can say the light side and also the dark side of the medicine at the same time through this web series.
That's amazing, and I love the fact
it wasn't really done before, especially you can say a physician himself hasn't really done it that often. We see very few and rare examples. So I'm very proud to come up with something like that. And I have been watching these medical soap operas like Scrubs and Grey's Anatomy and House. So there was still something that was missing, and sometimes I would feel like it's like a hyperbole. Things are kind of exaggerated. But then why don't we just exaggerate them in a way that they are satirical and comical, but at the same time, they are closer to reality and closer to what we really face as physicians and as patients and as family members on everyday basis. The insurance companies or sometimes like the hospital administration, they are trying to push you to discharge the patient. So you stand your ground at that time, and you say that the patient needs some more time. There are some issues that we need to address, and then you just do the best thing for the patient at that time. So, and at that, in that case scenario, which happens quite often, there's a very thin line. Being a medical student, we need to make sure that we are in this field after giving an informed consent. So we should not be joining this field just because of peer pressure, just because of parents' pressure, because there's so many parents I've seen who are doctors, and they just want their kids to be doctors just to somehow carry on a family tradition. So for my advice for those parents and for those kids is that if they're not having their calling and they don't feel that they have they're not passionate about this field, then they definitely should not be in this field. They can perform much better in other fields because sooner or later they're going to realize that they've made the wrong decision, and they will end up burning out, and they will end up feeling that they made the wrong decision just because someone else forced them to do that. So it should be a very well-informed consent and decision. And for that, they need to go on different observational rotations, externships, and see what a doctor goes through, and especially at the primary care level, and then at the inpatient setup. So they need to explore all these different avenues in the field of medicine and then make the decision.
What is the conversation we need to have on the resident or the physician level in terms of making active change and improving medical culture?
So now there are two things. One is the medical training, and that's a separate issue. And then the other thing is the healthcare overall. How can we improve that? So first of all, I would like to address the medical training part. So I was an intern in a community hospital in New York, and my days as an intern were, I would be very frank, were quite brutal and gruesome. We would be doing 36 hours calls and multiple admissions, and we had to do a lot of scut work at that time, which involved collecting blood samples, doing EKGs, collecting urine samples, blood cultures. I mean, anything you can think of, we as interns had to do it all by ourselves. So that would take a lot of time and energy from an intern to basically learn the actual medicine. And by the time we are presenting the case, we were really exhausted. And I could remember that many times, and not only me, but multiple other interns, they would not be knowing the case that much, and they would be knowing more, and they would be focused more on collecting the blood samples and doing the scut work. So we need to develop a culture in the field of medicine in which the interns are supposed to be focused more on learning medicine rather than just doing the scut work. That's one important thing. And the other thing is the work hours. So that has been a continuous debate. Recently, the work hours were reduced to, I think, 18 hours at the max, and now they are talking about increasing it further. So I think there should be some sort of cutoff. There should be some sort of limitation on that, some sort of cap, that this is the number of admissions that the interns or the medical residents are supposed to admit, and these are the number of hours that they can work continuously in one shift. And we as the medical community should be on the forefront advocating for our interns and residents, because if we end up burning them out at such an early stage, how can we expect them to be a very accomplished and satisfied and happy doctors in the future? Once physicians they go through that process and they become attendings and they feel comfortable, then they don't look back. And I think that's the main issue, because as an intern, as a medical student or a resident, you don't have enough power to change the system. Like you already explained the whole process, that you are living in a very competitive and to some extent a hostile environment towards you, which is not that much friendly, and you just cannot start another battle. So your battle should be fought by your seniors, by your attendings, who have already gone through that, and they are the ones who need to make sure that their coming generation doesn't have to go through the same process. But unfortunately,